Hey, Big V here. We're talking teams today, and we're talking about behavioral styles. Now, you've heard the DISC assessments, and I want you to know that I'm not like the greatest expert in the world on DISC assessments, but I have studied them for a lot of years. I've gone through DISC certification programs, and we use DISC in the way that we hire. We use it in communication, we use it in sales training and development, and we use it in coaching. The DISC profile has become an important part of the way we interact because it gives us the ability to understand people and communicate in a way that makes them feel comfortable. I'm also going to give you right here at the very end, I'm going to give you a link where you can download and take your own DISC assessment absolutely free. So stay tuned to the very end. I'm going to talk about how we use it, and then we're going to give you some resources so you can find out where you are in your behavioral style and maybe even share it with some of your friends. So you ready to go? So what are the four behavioral styles? DISC. D stands for dominance, I for influence, S for steadiness, and C for conscientious. And I'm going to break those down and talk about the characteristics of each one of those behavioral styles. Let's talk about a D. This is easy for me because I'm a high D. Matter of fact, everybody has a dominant and they have a secondary style. There's a dominant style and a secondary style. My two styles are D and I. So I'm a high D, driven dominance, and a high I, influence. So here's some of the characteristics of a high D and see if this relates to you. And you can put in the chat right below. I think it'd be kind of fun to see what you think you are, or if you've done the assessment, what you are. What are your two dominant styles? A D is individuals with a dominant style, and I'm going to read this, say are often assertive, confident, results-oriented. They're typically direct, decisive, and focused on achieving goals. Does that describe you? Their communication style is they prefer to be straightforward in their communication. They don't like to beat around the bush, use a lot of fancy words. They come across as competitive or challenging oftentimes, and they value efficiency, and they're driven, literally driven by the challenges and opportunities of leadership. That's a D. I'm a D. I walk into the room, I want to know who's in charge and how do we get to the answer, and I don't believe the rules apply to me. Those are all some of the underlying characteristics of a high D. When you're dealing with a high E, it's kind of interesting. Your approach when dealing with somebody like me is to be direct, is to get to the point quickly. The backstory oftentimes that a lot of people like to share will cause a D to lose interest in the communication. So get to the point. Highlight the key features so they know that you've thought it through and get there. And then, of course, the benefits, and properly emphasize its potential for being able to accomplish a goal. And oftentimes financial gain is that goal, or investment opportunities, or strategic locations. The presentation provide data that's properly researched, but not how you assembled the data. The D doesn't want to hear how you got to the conclusion. They just want to know that you actually did the research. And then focus on closing. What's the deal points at the end that we want to get to so that we know how to clearly move forward? When you understand a D and you understand to communicate with them, it changes the nature of the conversation. Let's talk about my secondary one. It's the I. Now, I love my I's. A lot of people on team members, a lot of people in sales, and a lot of real estate agents are high I's. The influencer is they like to believe that they're the life of the party. Oftentimes, they don't think the party starts until they get there, and they like to announce it. Okay, I'm here now. Let's get this party going. The high I's are the ones that are relationship focused. They focus on the relationship because that's what resonates with them. Their communication style, and I'm going to read this, is they're expressive. They enjoy engaging with people. They might use humor, storytelling, and persuasion in their communication. They thrive on positive interactions, and they seek to inspire and to motivate other people. Your approach with a high I is to build a relationship based on common interest and common people. When I find a high I, and I usually can identify them because there's a competition for who's going to talk the most, is you ask questions about themselves and what they are interested in. And as soon as you can find common ground or common people, it automatically cements the relationship. High I's are fun to build relationships with because you find something in common and they're excited about it. And it allows you, it gives you the permission to be able to move the conversation to the next place. When presenting to a high I, they love visuals and engaging materials. They want to be motivated and inspired by the way that you communicate. Vibrant property brochures, virtual tours, success stories from previous clients are all things that will resonate with a high I. In closing, you want to appeal to their desire to have a positive experience and the positive review that you're going to ask them for at the end. And you want to convey how their experience is going to align with their aspirations for influence and for making a difference in other people's lives. High I's are fun to interact with. They're always and usually the easiest people to sell because they believe their own hype. And if you honor them and you communicate in a way that makes it comfortable for them, you develop quick and fast relationships. Now, the S's are a little bit different. The S stands for steadiness. So what I love about my S's, my wife is a high S. They say that opposites attract. Well, that's absolutely true in my case. My kids will come to me when they want me to help them make a quick decision. But when they want somebody to hear them and understand them and know how they feel, definitely it's my wife. It's the high S in the relationship that keeps us together. She's the keeper of the culture. She's the one that builds the relationships that are lifelong. The S's are hard to sell to, and let me tell you why. When a high I approaches a high S who's focused on this steadiness communication style. Here, let me define it. It says they are steady in their style, they're patient, they're supportive, they're relationship focused, they value cooperation, harmony, and stability. They're often dependable and loyal team members. They want to make sure everybody's treated well. They're keepers of your culture. They prioritize the relationship over the task. They display empathy in their communication. They're better listeners. Their approach is often calm and reassuring. They seek a sense of security and they prefer a steady pace. They don't like the high I coming in and messing it all up. Matter of fact, the S's are the ones that will calm the I's down. And that's why the balance is important to have all those different styles on your team. The S's are harder to sell because they don't believe in all the hype and they've done their research and they think about the long-term effects of their decision. When somebody who's a high D or a high I pushes a S, they will gently and respectfully decline to make a decision in an environment where they feel pressured. And so understanding that that's how they're going to behave, a high D or a high I must adapt their style to build the relationship and give the high S the information they need to feel good about the decision moving forward. Understanding somebody's behavioral style, in my opinion, is the highest form of respect. It's that I care about you enough to present it in a way that is comfortable for you instead of comfortable for me. And that works in relationships, it works in sales, and it works in team building. Let's talk about the high C. The high C characteristics, the high C are my analyticals. They're the ones that think things through. They're usually the people that have done the research. Oftentimes the high C's come across as being overconfident or being kind of snotty because they think they know more than everybody else. But the reality is they've done their research and oftentimes they do. And so understanding that a high C is a behavioral style and it's okay because they've done the research, listen to them. You have to find balance in the communication style, but here's what the description of a high C is. Those with this high C style are analytical, detail-oriented, and systematic. They emphasize accuracy, quality, and adherence to policies and procedures. They're often thorough and precise in their work. They prefer clear, detailed communication. They focus on facts and evidence. They may ask questions to ensure understanding and appreciate the structured approach, and they're motivated by accuracy. Some of the challenges of the high C is that they want accuracy and they will oftentimes have the inability to move forward unless something is perfect. And so we work with our high C's to focus on progress, not perfection, and to not get caught up in analysis paralysis. So they have great things, and each one of these behavioral styles are critical components of a team. If you have a really high functioning team, every different behavioral style is represented because that's what creates a cohesive team that moves forward quickly. You've got people doing the research, you've got someone going after the business, you have someone developing and keeping relationships, and you have someone keeping the culture and making sure everybody is treated fair and right. And each of those behavioral styles create this unbelievable team. There's so many exercises and things that you can do to recognize people's profiles and how to do it. One of the fun exercises we did at a coach training is we put everybody together in groups and we separated them. And then we asked the S's to plan a trip going somewhere in the world for a group of C's. How would your trip look? What would it look like? And the S's were very different than the C's. And then we asked the C's to plan a trip going somewhere in the world for a group of I's. Well, the C's wanted a full itinerary with everything that was going to happen step by step. And the high I's wanted experiences. And they just wanted to be able to wing it and go somewhere and figure out what they were going to do on the fly. And it was so fun to see the perception of how one behavioral style communicated with the other behavioral style and what their perception was. And it was really fun to do that. So as a team leader, you have this really cool opportunity to understand the behavioral styles of the people you lead and create an environment where they understand each other. We have little jars of sand with the disc colors in them. And when somebody gets hired and we do their disc motivators, they get these 2 jars of sand that sit on their desk. So when somebody walks into their office or into their cubicle, they can see their behavioral styles and remember what they are and who they are and communicate in a way that honors their behavioral style. It's a fun thing to see your team members start to communicate differently with the different behavioral styles on your team. One last thing to consider is that if you've taken the assessment in the past and you take it again and it's different, it's okay because you're in a different season in your life, you have different life experiences, and you answer questions different. It's not that the disc is accurate or not accurate. The other thing I'm going to encourage you to do when you go to the bottom here and you download this link to take your free disc assessment is I want you to answer the questions as you really are, not what you wish you were. How do you think about that? Oftentimes when you read the question, you think, well, I want to be that, so I'm going to answer that. Or I know if I answer it this way, it'll make me this or that. Don't try and overthink it and don't try and beat the test. What you're trying to do is really get an understanding of who you are and what your behavioral style is. And so the first thing that comes to your mind as you read the question, answer it that way. And then when you read your disc and you go through and it looks at it, describes all those things, there's some really cool elements to it, like communicating with your profile. How do you work with someone that has this profile? You learn to work with people in each of the profiles better as a result of taking the disc. So take your behavioral style, download it, and let's have a little bit of fun incorporating behavioral styles into your team's practice.